Hey everyone, this is Jack Bourne, founder of Doubleline Funnel. Let me tell you something. If you want a successful evergreen funnel, then you absolutely have to have a feedback loop so you can tell what's working and what's not. But if you're intimidated by Google Analytics or even spreadsheets, look, you're not alone. Sometimes it can feel like you're drowning in a sea of data. So what if there was a way you could separate the signal from the noise and finally know what small number of metrics to pay attention to so your funnel improves month after month? If that sounds good to you, then that's exactly what you're going to learn on today's training. So pay close attention. Let me introduce my guest. My guest is a multi-award-winning three-time entrepreneur, self-proclaimed super nerd, and most recently founder of HelloFunnels.co. Her passion is helping entrepreneurs fall in love with and make a ton of money from simple, proven, sleaze-free funnels. Please welcome Kate McKibbin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited because this is a problem. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and not just entrepreneurs, but also course consultants, agencies even, really kind of shy away from the numbers because either we don't know what numbers to track, or really we're getting this fire hose of information and we don't even know where to look. It's like somewhere buried in this mess is the information I need to pay attention to, but I don't know what. And so we just kind of avoid it. So is that, am I the only one who does that? Or do you find that that's something that a lot of people suffer from?
Absolutely. Like I know we were exactly the same. And then my clients sort of, the same again. And like, we're both pretty nerdy. Like we can sort of, that fire hose, we're probably, better able to cope with it than most. But, if we're avoiding it, I was like, well, then imagine the people who are sort of, they're only putting these things in place to make their business run, not because it's like the main thing they enjoy doing. So I see it so often. And then how do you make your decisions if you don't really know what is or isn't working?
Yeah, I mean, it would be like driving around at midnight with the lights off, and having no street lights. I mean, what are you going to run into? You're certainly not going to stay on a straight and narrow path. So yeah, why don't you start off, peel back the layers, and I think you have some really cool but simple technology to show us using Google Sheets, right? And so we're gonna keep this really approachable for everyone, but still, even though we're going to keep it kindergarten simple, everyone's going to be able to finally be able to see what metrics to track in their business. So anytime that you're ready, share your screen and let's dive in. Why don't you just give I gave the intro, but you have two sides of your business, right? So you help build funnels for people, and you also have another side where you teach funnel experts how to work with their clients, correct?
Yeah. So we have, we're online, we do online programs, and half of our clients are DIYers, they're course creators, they're wanting to set up their own funnels. They're generally, they're really great at what they do. Like they're naturopaths or they're coaches, but the marketing side of things, it's like doing it because they have to make, they need it to make the business run. It's not necessarily their passion. And then the other side of things is we have our other group of nerds who we're helping to sort of like elevate to, we're calling them funnel pros. So they're going to know the strategy and the tech and just be able to come out. And for those people who don't like messing around with funnels, which I always find strange, like it seems to be some people would, rather go to the dentist than sit down and actually build a funnel for themselves. We're helping to sort of like train an army of people who can then be out there building them.
Fantastic. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put a link somewhere near this video that you're watching right now.
Yeah, so we've got basically what we have is actually two links we can give to people. One is one that has got dummy data in it, so you can kind of jump in and have a play and see how it works. And then the other one is a completely blank version, so you can start to connect that up and use that either for your own funnels or for if you want to, duplicate it, use it for clients as well.
Awesome.
Feel free.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So let's dive in. Why don't you show us how this beautiful bit of technology works?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just go over what is on. So this is your dashboard, right? So I'm going to walk you through sort of what's on each page, how it works, and then show you how you can quickly kind of connect it up to get your data coming through. So first thing, we've just got really that top line data. And one of the things I really like about this spreadsheet, and that one of the reasons we created it, was you can actually put in any date range here, and it will update. So it's pulling data in from multiple places, and then it's giving you that snapshot of whatever time frame you want, which is a limitation with some different software, depending on what it is that you're using. So the top line numbers that everyone wants to know at any given point, obviously, number of sales, amount of revenue, amount of ad spend, profit, cost per lead, earnings per lead, and then your ROAS, so return on ad spend. And then we've just got basic down the bottom, the breakdown of sales per product as well. And then over here, the funnel side, which is the bit that I like to geek out on, is it shows you for, the example we're giving is for like a simple 4-step kind of funnel. So an example might be, if for example is a webinar funnel, your first step might be that they registered for the webinar, they attend the webinar, opt-in, register for a webinar, attend the webinar, and then sale. And obviously, just there is dummy data in here. So sometimes the data doesn't make any sense. So we've got like 3 people have attended the webinar and 11 people purchased, which is the best conversion rate ever on your webinar. Probably not likely to happen.
How do we build that funnel? Yeah.
I know. I know. So yeah, some of in the dummy one, it depending on how you slice the dates, there is some weird numbers in there, but it also will show you then, conversion rates at each point. So if you're wanting to know where your opt-in page is converting at, what different steps are converting at, you see that there, as well as the overall conversion rate. So the first thing people need to do in setting this up is figure out, okay, what are those 4 steps that you're wanting to track? And if someone is a bit, got a bit more of a complicated funnel and they're wanting to nerd out, you could always add additional steps in here if you wanted to, but I won't go through that because that might just break a few people's brains. So let's just assume everyone's going to go, what's the main 4 steps in a funnel to track at any one time? So that's the dashboard, and all of this is dynamic. You don't touch anything on here other than to change the date range. And, if you want to pop your logo in there, brand it, make it yours, absolutely go for it. So this is the second tab. This is really just where all the data is kind of getting pulled in and totaled up, and any other sort of like maths that needs to happen before it's displayed on your dashboard. So again, you don't really touch this. The only things that you would touch on here is the names of your products, and they have to be a direct match with what's kind of getting pulled through onto the sales tab. So that's how it's checking and doing its count is, is this called product A or product 1? And then some optional ones here is if you have goals for a certain time frame. For example, if your cost per lead is like, we want our cost per lead to be around $10 or $12 or $5 or whatever it is. If you pop that in here on the dashboard, you'll see here that it kind of gives you that percentage of up or down and helps you to have that visual track of how it's going. The same with your total opt-ins and total purchases. And again, one caveat I'll put on that is that when you are setting up this, have a think about what is the kind of the time period that you would be generally using this for. So if you're like, I want to look at this monthly generally, then that's what your goal is based on. Or I want to look at this weekly and if you're like, I'm going to look at this at all different numbers, you might want to just remove that completely and not have it. But this is just kind of going, all right, we want to get 100 opt-ins a week. That's going to tell us how far off that goal. Or we want to get 10 sales a week. That's going to tell us how far we are off that as well.
So if I could just jump in. So on this page, if like 200 in, let's see here, C16, if 200 is the monthly goal for opt-ins, but on the dashboard tab, you set it from Monday to Friday or Monday to Monday, then your comparison, you're comparing what you actually got in opt-ins for a week versus your goal for a month. It's not going to quickly adjust that, right?
Yeah. So just in that case, you just ignore this little number here. Yep. That's the sort of the one. So it's obviously not 100%. That is like the one thing that isn't as, what's the word, dynamic as we'd love it to be. But you could, and if I sat and thought about it, I could probably figure out how to fix that. But I think it's just more of a general guide. So when you're setting it up, have that in mind. Or as I said, if you're like, well, I'm going to use it for different timeframes, maybe you can take that out completely, and then it won't sort of give you that sort of incorrect sort of snapshot. Then the marketing tab. So this is the tab that is depending on if people want to use 100% free tools or if they want to use something like a plus this or something like that to pull in like a paid tool. This is the one thing that you may have to update manually, which is just how much you've spent on marketing. So again, if you say, all right, I've decided that I'm going to use this weekly, you can come in here and every week just put in what your ad spend was for that week. If you want it to be as accurate as possible, I would recommend that you get a VA or someone to actually do it for you daily, because that's going to give you a much better snapshot. But for people who are using this just for the basics, then you can do it for weekly, because this is the one piece of manual information. If people don't want to use a paid tool, there are paid tools that can bring that in for you, but we were trying to make it as basically as simple as possible. So as far as the steps are, firstly, create your copy of it, decide what your points of your funnel are going to be. Think about, do you want to do it weekly, monthly, or be able to sort of do it for any time frame? And then it's about, okay, let's now pull in this data. Let's get this data in here. And what these following tabs are is, and I'll show you how to get the data in here. They're very simple count tabs. So if you have for your funnel, for example, if you have 2 or 3 different opt-ins that bring people into your funnel, like maybe you've got a PDF checklist, you've got a quiz, you've got something else, then you can bring each of those will have its own tab. So this might be your quiz, might be your PDF, etc. And we're just going to connect up. And I'll show you so that people can kind of understand what I mean by connect up. I might just show you how you do that. So again, for each opt-in, think about the tool that you are using. Some tools have a direct integration with Google Sheets. And if they do that, that is brilliant. If they don't, you're going to use a Zap. So if you think about, when you think about your funnel, go, all right, what are the opt-ins that connect to this funnel? What tool am I using for that? So maybe you're using Lead Pages, or maybe you're using, for example, we use ActiveCampaign, and we just have the ActiveCampaign forms embedded as part of our opt-in pages, and ActiveCampaign directly integrates with Google Sheets. So what you would do is go into your ActiveCampaign, and this is like a test, like a dummy automation, but you simply add an action inside ActiveCampaign, which says add a row in Google Sheets. And you go select your, obviously connect up your account, pick the spreadsheet, and then pick, so this is for opt-in number 1. And then the mapping, all we want to do, because all it's doing is simply counting the numbers there and then the date that it was added. So we just need to add in the date and the email address. Now, and one little sort of extra, I suppose, sorry, internet slow. One thing you may, again, depending on which tool you were doing. So with ActiveCampaign, they don't have a easy to grab field for what is the current time right now. And because you're wanting to know like today's date, not necessarily the date they originally subscribed, because obviously they could have subscribed previously and now they're opting for something else. One thing we add into our automation, so this is just we have a little automation that anytime for each of our opt-ins, we've got an automation that obviously gets triggered by them opting in, maybe adds them to your email list, et cetera, et cetera. So this would go into that automation. To get around that issue of not being able to, of them not having that ready for you, that piece of data of just like, what is today's date? We created a custom field and we just called it current time or current action date. You can call it whatever you want. And we just make it as an action as they go through this, that field gets the current time in it. So again, it depends on what tools some people are using. Some tools have that date that you can just grab and it lets you select it from the drop down. Otherwise, that's just one more step just to pop in to each of your opt-ins. So you do that, and then that means inside this Google Sheet, connecting on the mapping field, I won't kind of go through. It then has that, it lets you grab that custom field there and the contents of it. So then what that looks like is here on opt-in 1, anytime someone opts in, it pops their email address and then that that date here. And so that's how we're able to then, put the dates in here and see the totals and stuff for that. So you would repeat that for each of your different opt-ins. If you don't use something that connects directly, then it's as simple as creating a Zap. So this is just, again, another example one for if someone was using maybe ConvertKit, because ConvertKit doesn't have a direct integration with Google Sheets. So again, just the Zap gets triggered on that opt-in, and then you're going to come down here, do create spreadsheet row in Google Sheets. It's all the same thing, like you're going to pick the account, pick the spreadsheet, pick the tab for that actual opt-in. So this one we've done opt-in 2 because it's we're pretending it's for a different opt-in. And then we just want to get the subscriber email and the date so that you can have that in this sheet here. So I know it's probably, so some people going, this seems very fiddly. Like it's, if you do it step by step, and usually when my clients do it, they go back and they go, all right, I'm going to rewatch this video with it in front of me so I can actually set this up as I go. Once you've done the first opt-in, you go, oh, that's actually was super easy. And then it's easy to sort of, and then, yeah. So you just do that for your opt-ins. And then the final thing you need to do is pretty much that same process again, but for your sales. And in this case, we want to grab a couple more pieces of information. So just like obviously we're getting the email address before, the date of purchase, you then also want to know obviously the product name and then the price or the total of the order. And for most people, that will need to be coming through from a Zap, because most shop, again, so many different checkouts. You could be using Samcart, Thrivecart, Kajabi, they're all slightly set up differently. Most, I don't know any off the top of my head that directly integrate with Google Sheets. So again, it's just one simple Zap that brings through that information there. And then that's pretty much it. Then you kind of let it just do its thing. And over time, like, within a week, you'll have that first sort of snapshot of data for how your funnel is going. And then this is one of those things that once you set it up, it becomes more and more useful as sort of time goes by. And you can even do it for launches and things as well. Like if you had a launch coming up, like it doesn't have to just be an evergreen funnel. You can have these different steps be for maybe you're doing a challenge launch. So prior to the launch, you might have done some list building. So you want to see the number of people who came in through that, and then see how many of those people then registered for your challenge, attended the challenge, again, depending on what kind of data points you have access to, and then purchase. So it just gives you that nice kind of overall snapshot depending on what your sort of digital marketing activities are.
Yeah,
and
what? Yeah, it does. I have some follow-up questions, but first let me just state that this is really, really brilliant because as hopefully we're acting as CEOs in our business, we all start typically as the person who does all the things. But as we start to bring on team members, we want to have a health check of how things are going in the business and to spot issues that are coming up. And having a report like this, where all the information is automatically being pulled in, even if we're just doing a weekly check, this is a really great way to know if something is off. Did all of a sudden the Facebook ads go wonky? You don't necessarily need to rely on your Facebook ads manager to tell you that. You can actually pick up on it pretty quickly and then jump in and see what's going on. And so if we could go to the sales data tab, I have a question about the columns.
Yeah.
So the columns J and K, we want to leave alone. That's automatically tabulated. Is that correct?
Yes. So these ones, the J and K dates. So we've got some extra tabs in here, which we've got here, which we're going to talk about in the next session, which brings through also the subscribe date. And so that column J is just the number of dates between when they first subscribed and when they purchased. So that gives us a bit more information to then be able to play with and see as well. And I know we're going to sort of dive into that one, but for the simple setup, you don't need to really worry about those columns. You can probably hide them or delete them. But if you're wanting to do that more advanced stuff, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit, those really start to come in handy.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be fun to dive into. So let me ask from a practical standpoint. So you said the one column that they need to, once it's set up, the one column that either a VA or someone on their team or they need to add in is the marketing spend. So if, let's say that I think I know the answer, but I want to tee this up so that someone watching can make sure that this is answered for them. Let's say I've got a funnel, like my main funnel, and so I don't have three different lead magnets. I've got one main funnel, but for that main funnel, I'm advertising on both Google and Facebook, or pick your other two platforms, but let's just use Google and Facebook. Would we want to, in order to make this dashboard work the best, would you recommend setting this process up for, well, how would you actually do that? Would you combine the Google and Facebook ad spend? Because I guess ideally, I didn't think this question through, but I guess ideally what I would want it, you want
to see the two.
Yeah. Like, maybe Facebook is giving me 2 times my, 2 times return on ad spend, but Google is, basically a bomb, or vice versa. Yeah.
So that's really, again, where this sort of very simple setup does hit its limit. So this is showing you the total of your ad spend. It definitely is ways with the additional columns in the sales data tab where you could bring in whether or not that lead came from Facebook or came from Google.
Right.
And then you could also, again, if you're kind of a bit smart with spreadsheets, you could have separate marketing tabs for Facebook and for Google ads. And so you could start to sort of splice it up a bit differently. We just wanted to build this out to be the most sort of simple snapshot we could. And then I know that obviously with attribution and all this jazz is just happening at the moment, it's obviously making things very difficult for everybody. To do that more platform specific deep dive, you'd have to probably go in and have a look at your Google Analytics. Your Google ads data and your Facebook ads data separately. But it gives you that, that overall, like you said, like if you're on your weekly whip with your team, or if you have a weekly meeting, you'd be like, okay, let's have a look. This normally converts at this amount. Why is this now dropped? Or why is this, or it's that question. And it seems to happen particularly, like world events happen and things, not even the most perfect funnel isn't a straight line. I think, as you probably know, like it has its ebbs and flows. And to go, all right, well, it's been a really quiet month this month. Is it the funnel? Is it something broken? Or is it something else? And then you can kind of look in and go, well, we're still hitting all our normal benchmarks for the conversion rates at certain points, but we haven't had as many people through, or heaps of people registered for the webinar, but nobody's shown up. Okay, what's happened? Like it really helps you to kind of answer those questions. But unfortunately not the different ad platform specific stuff. Yeah. I might try and figure that one out, but it's like, that's next level.
No. And that's actually perfect, because if we could just stay on the screen, I think as we mentioned in the beginning, I think what a lot of entrepreneurs are really missing is a dashboard that shows them 80% of what they need to know, or maybe in some cases 90% of what they need to know. I would say the majority of entrepreneurs, once they get, as they start to get into, spending money on ads, they're going to focus on one platform and then they're going to branch out to others. And so this is a great way for them to know right out of the gate, like what is working, what isn't working. And then as they start to build into that complexity, there are other tools or other ways that they could hire someone to, make this spreadsheet even more adaptable. But I think this covers a broad spectrum of use cases. And so I think this is really, really powerful. So a perfect example would be, for example, if someone on their team went in and changed a tag or changed an automation in their follow-up email sequences, and you said, okay, wait a second, we're still getting the same number of opt-ins. We're still getting the same number of people who opt in to register for the webinar. We're getting the same number of people who registered the webinar to attend, but then after that, sales have just dropped off a cliff. Now, instead of just wondering, like, why did, like, just having no information and just thinking like, okay, what, my ads must have stopped working, so I'm going to shut off my ads. Actually, no, your ads are still working. It's just your email sequence all of a sudden is broken. It's not doing what it used to do. And so this is a great way to zero in on what specific piece of your funnel, needs more attention from you or your team.
Yeah. And this is, I think it's like that health check, right? That you sort of want to, particularly when you've got something evergreen, which can tend to sort of get forgotten. It's like, okay, the funnel just runs. And normally it's until it's completely stops working and people go, oh, hang on a second. We should have been paying a bit more attention to that. And like you said, I've had, clients come in who freaking out because last month they made 50 sales and they've made 10. And they're like, obviously something's broken. But to previously find out what that was, they were having to pull up like 6 different platforms to look at, oh, this is the email system, numbers. This is the Google Analytics numbers. This is my webinar software numbers. This is my cart numbers. And, this just kind of gives you that one place, one sanity check kind of place to do it. And thinking more about having the different channels as well. I know some people, and again, just my brain has sort of started, you've sent me off down a rabbit hole now. I'm going to have to go and play with this afterwards. But I know some people, particularly if they do have a very simple funnel, or they start off, like you said, with one channel. And then when they're like wanting to branch out into other channels, particularly with how badly things are tracking at the moment, quite often they'll duplicate their funnel and maybe say that, like, this is the Facebook ads, landing page and et cetera, et cetera. And this is the one for Google ads. So with that, you could actually have 2 versions of this, one for Facebook ads, one for Google ads. And that's probably the most simple one because they have sort of those different points. But yeah, sorry, I just had to try and quickly figure out.
That makes a lot of sense. So just to kind of repeat that, you could, so let's say that you have your Facebook channel and your funnel up and running and you have the dashboard all set up. And now you want to branch into Google ads rather than sending Google traffic to that same funnel and sort of, mixing that ad spend. Your suggestion was, well, you could also just duplicate your funnel, which takes a little bit of work. But again, this is like work that's done one time. And then you've got a really transparent dashboard that shows you exactly what's going on so that you can focus just on getting that ad network, up and running and working the way that the other one was working.
Yeah, I mean, there's always options around these things. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good spot for us to end the main section. And as you mentioned, Kate, in the advanced session, you're going to be showing us how to dive deeper into this and really pull apart some of the extra data that we can add in there, and actually add it in pretty easily and show us things like, how long do clients typically take or new prospects take from joining the list or opting in to making a purchase. And also being able to tell which opt-in or which lead magnet is actually driving the most revenue, because you can't take opt-ins to the bank. You can't show up with like, hey, I made twice as many opt-ins. It's how much actual sales and profit we make. And so sometimes getting a high opt-in rate could be connected to a low sales rate. So you're going to help us solve those things. And we're going to be doing that in the advanced session. So I want you to join us in the advanced session before the price goes up. As you can see, there's a deadline near this video. And so the special deal is yours. You can get it at a discount as long as you don't procrastinate and let your procrastination steal it from you. So go ahead and jump on that. Before we go, Kate, I want to make sure that you tell everyone how they can learn more about you, and just if you have any last thoughts on what we already discussed, but definitely make sure that people know where they could go and find more about you and your programs that you have.
Yeah, so hellofunnels.co or at hellofunnels on Instagram is where you can come and find my team and I. And I suppose the final thought is that for anyone who watched this and just kind of went too much, I just wanted to say that I've seen like the most technophobic people be able to set this up, and it's just take a deep breath, do it step by step, and the sooner you have something like this in place, like it is one of those things that, as obviously the more data you have, the more useful it will be, and you will be so grateful and so proud of yourself as well when you do have set this up and you've got this gorgeous dashboard that you can check, and you'll feel like a total boss. So just don't grab a paper bag if you need it. but you can do it. I 100% believe in you.
Yep. And you know, if you, I don't know if you agree with this, but if you know, if you need help, at least you know that it can be done, and you have an idea of like, okay, ConvertKit is like to Zapier to this. I don't want to be the one who actually does it, or maybe you try and you're struggling. You could go to resources like Fiverr. You could go to Upwork. Like you could hire someone for, you know, $50, $100, you know, some relatively small amount of money to get ConvertKit talking to Zapier, they're talking to this dashboard. And then once you've got it set up and it's working, it's set up. And that's the beauty of this. It's set it and forget it. So Kate, this is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing the hard work that you and your team put into this. So I know a lot of people are going to get a tremendous amount of benefit from it. And join us in the advanced session because you're going to get even more benefit from what Kate is about to show you. I'll see you all over there.